Every kid has a great story to tell. Have one? Well, we're listening. Send your best story to the New Indian Express's Bookworm Junior Summer Stories Contest, and you could just end up becoming an author over the summer. What are you waiting for? Get writing.
Hindustan Institute of Technology and Science. Take your first step toward a future in excellence.
Hi and welcome to yet another episode of the New Indian Express's Let's Debate, supported by the Hindustan Institute of Technology and Sciences and MEIL. It's been our pleasure to bring you some of the best debaters from across the country. These are students from India's high schools from across, and when we say across, we really do mean across. We have people from over 35 cities, we have over 200 students, and we have people from over 100 schools. And if that isn't the largest inter-school virtual debate competition that India has seen since the pandemic, I don't know what is. Thank you so much. We've got a full house with us today, and we also have with us two fantastic judges whom I'll come to a little later. The topic that's on the table today is, it is right for schools and governments to monitor your social media activity. That's right. This is a topic that's contentious for adults. I cannot imagine what it's going to do for you guys, and I know you're itching to go. But before that, let me introduce our two fabulous judges who have joined us. Today we have with us Aditya Soma. Aditya is Executive Director and CMO at Worldview Education. He's based out of Hyderabad. He's the guy who's organized so many of those MUNs that you guys have probably been in some of them and just didn't know that he was the man behind it. Most of Worldview's programs use global challenges as props and a set of cutting-edge experiential learning tools to trigger adaptive capacity in all of their participants. And I'm really excited by some of the work they've done. Thank you so much for joining us, Aditya. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Likewise, Daniel. I'm looking forward to hearing everyone debate.
Fantastic. And from within the New Indian Express, I'd like to welcome my colleague and my deputy resident editor in Tamil Nadu, Subhashini Dinesh. Subhashini, of course, has been a communications expert for 20 years. She's been a professor at the Asian College of Journalism, and she's been a journalism expert for over, I lose count. I know she says 20 years, but I know it's been a lifetime in journalism for her, and I'm very excited to have her judge some of the finest minds from across the country in a topic that I know is very, very close to her. Thank you for joining us, Subhashini.
Thank you so much, Danny. It's a pleasure to be here as well.
All right. Now, you guys know what the topic is. You know on which side of the motion you're on. So without further ado, let's jump straight in. May I now invite our first speaker to speak for the motion, it is right for schools and governments to monitor your social media activity. Keerthana Suresh, our first speaker. Keerthana, if you're good to go, when you hear the ping, your time will begin and you can go right ahead.
Just as Kalam says, man needs his difficulties because they are necessary to enjoy success. A very good evening to all of you. I am Keerthana Suresh of grade 10 from Sri Shankara Vidyapeetham, Kannur, Kerala. And I am working for the motion that it is right for schools and governments to monitor your social media activity. I do strongly support this statement due to many reasons, and if I'm to point it out, I could say monitoring software can allow schools to be proactive about preventing crimes before it gets out of hand and even save a life, that is detecting threats earlier. Another point I could say is that for schools monitoring social media, could alert them to potentially harmful instances of bullying among students, child predators, and other forms of abuse or violence. Also, schools monitoring social media are mostly focused on the safety of their student bodies rather than policing personal opinions. You know, sometimes people don't take social media very seriously and use it as an outlet to vent and say irresponsible things. Or they make jokes that are actually more terrifying than funny. So, it is very important to keep an eye on what students are doing in social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and many more. Today's social media obsessed youth are facing a unique set of problems, and these are amplified by our technological advancements. To make it more clear, let me share with you a study that had been conducted in America. The study shows that 95% of US teenagers of age group 13 to 17, please note the age group, it is 13 to 17, children who are going to schools, they have access to a smartphone. Also, 85% of the teens are on YouTube, 72% on Instagram, and Facebook today has a user base that is comprised of 51% of teens. These stats itself shows the immense participation of teens on social media platforms. Overuse of these technologies will divert children from their academics and studies and adversely affect their results, obviously. So, there must be a restriction provided. Also, to make you more clear about the topic, I wish to make you know about an incident that have taken place in January 2021. A case entered the Supreme Court, and the case is speaking about a high school cheerleader who was suspended from her team for comments she made on the social media. After long disputes, you know what Supreme Court has declared? He have allowed that schools should be allowed to discipline students for social media posts so long as they are linked to school activities and threaten to disrupt them. Done.
Thank you very much, Kirtana. That was literally on the buzzer. Could I now invite to speak against the motion Ram Daftari? Ram, when you're good to go and you hear the ping, the floor is yours.
A very good evening to one and all present here. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to have two common understandings for today's debate. Firstly, social media in the past 10 years has interconnected the entire world while redefining communication. Secondly, the majority of us were severely pushed inside our homes in 2020 due to COVID-19. This made us heavily dependent on social media with all our conversations, documents, and interests reposited in. We have witnessed hypervigilance regarding privacy numerous times from time immemorial. Recently, when WhatsApp changed its data policies, people in a frenzy shifted to Signal, primarily because of its privacy features. Now, I ask you, ladies and gentlemen, if the government and schools decide to monitor all social media platforms, we can imagine the outpour of protest. Ladies and gentlemen, we need not justify our right to privacy. We must justify intrusions into these rights. India is a land of diversified ideologies. This stands no different for political parties. Thus, every party has some inherent natural biases. These biases would reflect in its monitoring and censorship. My worthy opponents will come here and argue about the need to regulate hate speech and misinformation. However, the irony lies in the fact that the authority they wish to carry this out is itself one of the most prominent promulgators of the same. We must understand that if social media is monitored by the government, it will certainly be followed by regulation and censorship. The right to free speech no longer matters when an authority has the power to curb anything which goes against them. In fact, in 2018, the government planned to create a social media monitoring hub. However, this was refuted by the Supreme Court. Why? And I quote, "We will become a surveillance state, an authoritarian state." It has been seen in recent times how an individual's dissenting views have resulted in rejection of admission or expulsion from schools. This is a direct extension of cancel culture, a modern form of ostracism in which someone is thrust out of social or professional circles for having dissenting views. In partnership with cancel culture, social media monitoring would facilitate an intolerance of opposing views and a vogue for public shaming and ostracism. Ladies and gentlemen, the restriction of free debate makes everybody less capable of democratic participation. Finally, it is the responsibility of the parents to monitor their children's online conduct and social media activity as they are their legal guardians. They are responsible for ensuring their safety and ethical behavior. This falls outside of the jurisdiction of the school, and hence they do not have any right to monitor students' social media activity. Now, even if we assume that governments and schools begin monitoring social media, their authorities are bound to overlap in the domain of students. As of now, there are no proper monitoring laws in India. In this case, confusion is bound to arise, and unregulated confusion leads to chaos. Ladies and gentlemen, to conclude, I would like you to imagine a world where every action, every call, and every message of yours could be examined, scrutinized, and used against you. The question is whether you would want to live in such a world. Thank you.
And very early on in our debate, Ram Daftari has used the F word, by which I mean free speech. Thank you very much, Ram, for that. Can I now invite to speak for the motion, Priyadarshini S. Priyadarshini, if you're good to go.
Am I audible, sir?
Perfectly. When you hear the beep, go ahead.
Good evening to all. I'm S. Priyadashni and I'm studying 9th standard in SRKMB Centenary Girls High Secondary School, Chennai. I'm here to present my views for the motion. It is right for schools and government to monitor your social media activity. Social media found its way into the mainstream of young people in the previous decade with sites like Facebook, Twitter, etc., offering millennials the opportunity to connect with each other virtually. Now, there's a whole new generation of young people who practically grew up with the new tech innovation, not knowing what life is without it, arguably. But social media, while posing many benefits, it has been called out as a major influence in things like school bullying, in which why schools are debating whether or not to monitor teen social media activities. In fact, schools across the country are starting to make efforts or ramping up previous efforts to get their handle on school bullying manifested through social media. But this has brought up the motion of imposing on the privacy on school students. Should schools monitor social media? And if so, should they look up at only specific posters? Also, what kind of training should go into this? How will students' rights be protected? Monitoring is not necessarily equivalent to policing social media. Monitoring is based on paying close attention to the public usage of certain keywords as compared to policing, which involves hacking into emails and accessing personal messages on social media sites. For schools, monitoring social media accounts and keywords could alert them to possibly harmful instances related to bullying, child predators, self-harm, suicide, or inappropriate relationships with faculty or staff. Those in favor of monitoring promote that early detection and prevention of potentially dangerous situations can help keep students safe from harm by their own doing or others. In general, schools that monitor social media are focused on the overall safety of their students rather than cracking down on things like personal opinion. Now, the Indian government wants an handle on student social media profile, and that has sparked an outrage, and we need this debate. The government has directed all the higher educational institutions to link social media handles of students with the Institute and Ministry of HRD. The move is aimed to connect the students and share positive achievements by the students and institutions. It is only to share good practices by the institutes and motivate each other by best performances. So I conclude monitoring social media is focused only on the safety of the student rather than cracking down on things like personal opinion. Thank you.
All right, safety first. Thank you very much, Priyadarshini. Could I now invite to speak against the motion, Vanya Bansal? Vanya, if you're good to go, floor is yours.
Good evening, respected judges and fellow participants. My name is Vanya from the Shiv Nadar School, Noida, and today I will be speaking against the motion. Social media is a digital platform that allows you to share your views and connect with other people. It allows you also to share your thoughts, pictures, personal life, professional life, etc. with the world. Who isn't aware of social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter? These days, most of us spend a lot of time on social media. 45%, as per the Hindu news report, 45% of the world's population is on it, and the daily average time spent on social media is 2 hours 24 minutes. Social media is something that students like using. It is a place where they can express their emotions and their views. It is something that students use as a diversion from their schoolwork. We are living in a society that is shifting from atomization and moving towards individualization. There is hardly any time for people to listen to others. We take in too little and we eject too much. In such a claustrophobic social environment, the school going social group are affected, as adults around them do not have time to listen to their ideas and grievances. Hence, this age group resorts to social media as a diversion, as a cathartic space to seek emotional consolation. In the school going age group, there is a constant fear of judgment among students. By giving the right for schools and governments to monitor social media activity, it is indirectly taking the right for speech, strangulating their freedom, and violating their privacy. Studies have shown that when teenagers are given the privacy they need, it helps them become more independent and builds their self confidence. If the social media accounts of students are being monitored and controlled by the schools and government, they are being protected from cyber crimes. But when they grow up, would they know how to stand up on their own or handle situations on their own? No, they wouldn't know what to do if they face such a situation, as they would have never gone through it. And they won't know how to take ownership and handle the situation independently. It will be like building weirs and dams to control a flow of a river and not allowing it to flow naturally. Instead of monitoring social media, the school should trust the students and give them a chance to learn from their mistakes. They should conduct workshops and provide a professional counselor in case any student wants help or wants to talk to a trusted adult in a situation. Also, in a democratic country, the opinion of people matter and they have the right to speak and express themselves freely. Any form of infringement impeding one's right of expression, whether in public or a virtual platform, creates an environment of fear, phobia, anxiety, and challenges the very foundation of democracy. Hence, I would like to conclude that the schools and government should not have the right to monitor social media, as it violates their privacy and the right to speech. Also, it does the opposite of making students independent and taking ownership of themselves. And with that, I rest my case. Thank you.
Thank you, Vanya, for reminding us that expression is a function of democracy. Can I now invite Johann Thomas Philip to speak for the motion? Johann, if you're ready to go, you may begin when you hear the ping.
Good evening, one and all. My name is Johann Thomas, studying in Rajagiri Public School, Kalamassery, Kerala. And today I'm here before you to say that it is right for schools and governments to monitor your social media activity. Imagine a more peaceful world, a world without cyberbullying, internet scams, or social media challenge traps, a world with less terrorism. However, imagination is not enough. We need to take action, and social media surveillance is the right tool for this action. According to a 2018 survey by Ipsos Global Market Research, 37% of Indian children were victims of cyberbullying. Cases of cyberstalking increased by 36% from 2017 to 18 in India, according to National Crime Bureau records data. Social media surveillance can greatly eliminate these crimes. With this tool, schools could stop cases like these before they even happen. Schools and colleges are institutions where young minds are molded. Social media surveillance and corrective action against cyberbullying, drug addiction, and the like can go a long way in creating a generation with a healthy social media attitude. Many of you may have heard of the Blue Whale Challenge, perhaps. The Momo Challenge rings a bell. Many students all over the world lost their lives to these challenges. All harmful social media challenges such as these can be stopped almost immediately by surveying social media. Moreover, social media surveillance could be used against terrorism. In a study by Gabriel Wieman from the University of Haifa, 90% of organized terrorism activities on the internet take place via social media. Terror groups use social media platforms to spread their messages, recruit members, gather intelligence, finance, and coordinate attacks. What if social media surveillance had been set up? Governments would be able to monitor these activities and could disrupt them easily. A world with 90% less terrorism in it would be certainly a much better world. Social media surveillance can be used to prevent internet scams, frauds, and the like. It can be used to monitor and shut down activities like this before they can cause much damage. People have brought frauds and scams to the digital age. As of 2019, more than $42 billion have been lost to scams worldwide. And that's not counting the hundreds, thousands of scams that take place that go unreported. In response to this, we have brought monitoring them to the digital age. Now, we just need to implement them on a global scale. Social media surveillance is widely opposed all around the world. A major argument against it is its infringement on privacy. So answer me this, how is it an invasion of privacy when the person posts something in a public media? How is it an invasion of privacy when the government see posts that are meant to be seen by the public? People do not really acknowledge the immense benefits social media surveillance offers us. It's more than about a person. It's more than what is falsely claimed as an invasion of privacy. This tool is for the greater good of mankind. Imagine a more peaceful world. A world without cyberbullying, internet scams, or social media challenge traps. A world with less terrorism. Social media surveillance can help achieve that world. Thank you all.
Is it really private if it's out there in public? Well, that's an interesting observation. Thank you, Johan. Could I now invite Medha Sharma to speak against the motion? Medha, if you're good to go.
Imagine being a traveler in an unknown land. Shady manipulators scurry past side roads. The trees, laden with fruits of education on one side, are devoid and barren of fruit on the other. A constant volley of spam is fired from the nearest volcano, and above it all, a single step can lead to your extermination. But suddenly, a miracle happens and the world is restored? No, that's the plot of an action movie. But not too different is our world of social media. Good afternoon to all present here. My name is Medha Sharma of Sri Kumran Children's Home, CBSE, and I will be speaking against the topic, it is right for schools and governments to monitor your social media activity. From the student to the president, from the local restaurant to Warner Bros., social media is becoming increasingly common. Unsurprisingly, the data accumulated is huge, making it a huge mine of information where every hacker can have a party, provided they push the right buttons. A monitoring or a regulating body is usually present to combat such malintentions. However, what we fail to notice is that monitoring often leads to regulation. To control social media is to control what we are leaving behind for our future. Students use social media platforms to collect information, build their resume, or socialize with internet pals. Then monitoring, if done covertly, can cause lasting damage. The open, trusting relationship of the school with the student is harmed. A controlling and intimidating atmosphere is created around the student, leading to unease. This might have adverse effects on the child, prompting them to find ways to go undercover, exacerbating the situation, preventing them from reaching out to those concerned, teachers and parents, leading to unnecessary friction. The child and the uniform are separate. The school is only a part of the child's personality. If the child is well behaved, turns in his assignments on time, then the school does not have anything to do with his behavior outside. The identity of a child is an amalgamation of all these traits, and the personality of the child projected online may or may not be his true one. At the risk of going down a rabbit hole, I bring up the point of data encryption. Huge quantities of diverse data, all containing valuable personal information, requires a secure database to store it in. Little is said as to who accesses the data and how it is protected, creating security concerns. A small oversight can lead to data leaks, endangering the lives of all those placed under the responsibility of the organization and can lead to identity theft. The compilation of all these sources on social media is enough to paint a basic picture of you. On similar lines, let me elaborate on the tense relationships between governments and social media heads. In March 2018, news on one of the top social media platforms rocked the world. The Facebook Cambridge Analytica scandal, infamous for its outrageous use of data. It started off through an app called This Is Your Digital Life, where data was collected through an informed consent process for research. However, Facebook allowed the app to collect personal information from millions. A significant data breach happened when the data was used to aid Ted Cruz in his presidential campaign, creating psychographic personality profiles for the user and sway him into voting for Cruz. Another problem with this is that governments using data on a broader scale, democracy is in a way threatened. The need for monitoring arises when the view of creating that everybody is a suspect. With this data, authorities can track those in protests. Individuals become less likely to join organizations, refrain from speaking out, knowing that their words could be used against them. Immigration could be denied based on their personal views, propagating stereotypes, influencing discrimination. In other countries, one's political views or social interactions can lead to punishment. A member of the Uyghur Muslim community in China was detained and interrogated for 3 days as someone on his WeChat had checked in from Mecca. The deeper we dig, the worse it gets. The fine line between ethics and power is blurring, and it is at the risk of falling into the precipice of social indifference. There's a point in one's personality when one ends as a student and begins as a human, and a point where one ends as a citizen of the country and begins as a citizen of the world. I would like to conclude by saying monitoring social media activity is not a good idea, as the ruler is absolute and the freedom of the people is not transient. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Medha. That was rapid as much as it was great. Thank you very much for that. Could I now invite Shakti Charukesh to also speak against the motion?
Well, you know what? My brain starts working since my birth and never stops until I stand to speak in public. Well, I'm Shakti Charukesh of NCCS in Anda Central School, Europe. I'm going to solve the problems against monitoring the social media of students. And my topic is that it is not right for the government and schools to monitor the social media activity of students. To support my point, I have civil and human rights concern. According to the civil and human rights concern, it violates the digital privacy of students, it violates the human dignity, and it also violates the autonomy of a student. And it is obviously true when it comes to monitoring the social media activities of students. And I have 3 golden points which states that how harsh it is to monitor the social media activities of students. The first one is that it violates the privacy or it invades the privacy of students. Students may not be willing to share their personal chats, or they may not be willing to post their personal information to be seen by any government or any schools. So when government or schools take initiative to see their personal post, it is always gonna be it is not gonna be good to see their personal post, or it is always denying their privacy. And the second main point is it can chill expressive activities that are critical for the development of young men. To make it clear about this point, I will say an instance. In Texas, there lived a boy named Ahmad Mohammed, which is famously called the Hawks bomb incident. He invented a clock and it was posted in the social media. While it was posted in social media, the local cops and the teacher of that student actually mistook it as a bomb. And it was then given to the cop, and that child was handcuffed in front of his students. And by this incident, what can you understand is this can chill the expressive activities, and this can make the students suppressed to express their creative minds in social media. And the third important main point is it can disproportionately burden minority people, or it burdens the student on the basis of language. And nowadays, all the social media are commonly mentioned in the language English, but not all the students are well versed in the language English. So what happens is the student who is struggling to speak English from any part of the world, or from any social set, he struggles to put his information on the social media, and the social media rely upon the social listening tools. The social listening tools often rely upon the keywords, but these keywords put by the students are often misunderstood by these tools, this software, and it is often misunderstood by the teachers. As it is misunderstood by the teachers, The students from this group of society are often becoming the victims in such cases. And there are many indirect effects in these two things too. Social media monitoring software has limited efficacy. And the second thing is resource related to these social media activities can be best focused elsewhere. And the third main thing is my friends, my mates were speaking about preventing mass violence and giving safety for the students. But what I wanted to mention here is it is in a reliable method. It is in a reliable method. Note this point that it is not a reliable method to prevent or predict mass violence. As nowadays, they measured by the social listening tool. If they use the social listening tools, nowadays students often use the harsh words that are shoot, kill, or whatever it is. These words are becoming often in their chat. So the social listening tools misunderstand and make the students victim in such cases. And at last, thank you for being my unpaid therapist to listen all this and give your 100% except your bless. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shakti, for that. I think a lot of people have unpaid therapists that way. Could I now invite Ninada Krishna Lashkari to speak for the motion? Ninada, if you're good to go.
Okay, so I'm Ninada Krishna Lashkari from Sharda Vidyalaya, Mangalore. I'm from class 8 and today I'll be speaking for the motion that it is necessary for schools and governments to monitor social media. Sticks and stones can break your bones, but words can truly kill you from within. Have you seen people who have suddenly lost self-esteem, have very shy, but those who were popular before? This might be caused by the prevalent form of bullying called cyberbullying, which happens over the internet. According to the Journal of Adolescence, around 42% of teens have been called names, and 59% of teens have been affected from online bullying. It also states that suicides are related to cyberbullying, which is very bad. Have you heard about the term rave parties? Rave parties are where drugs are distributed to teens, Bollywood stars, everywhere. You must have been listening to the recent news that the NCB is conducting raids again and again to find drugs which are with peddlers. So all of you know that social media is an open platform. Anyone can make anything online, such as a new contact, new name, new face, everything. So they send links to the dark web, and with just one click of a button, you could send your address, your personal details. So drugs or bad stuff come to you. Next, I'm gonna talk about child sexual harassment. You must have all heard about about people being exploited on social media, people receiving texts which are not meant for them. According to Bark, which is one of online social media platforms, they give out these names of online predators. These online predators send sexual texts for those who are not even 18. Imagine if I sent a text to your daughter or a son who doesn't even know the meaning of it. Then I'm also going to talk about stalking. You know, before the times of social media, stalking used to happen by people collecting information on you, coming with you over places, and even sometimes coming to the same cafe or checking your whereabouts. But now it's way easier. Just if you get into a friend circle, or if a teen by mistake adds you or clicks on your friend request, you're done. Then I'm going to talk about someone. I think it was Vanya or Shakti Charukesh. I think. I hope I'm telling your name right. You talked about privacy. Well, privacy does not mean safe. For example, if I must say kids, they can just for example what I just said before, kids can directly add a whole other person into your friend request, and people think just clicking on a button that says you are turning all your post to private, you don't know who's in your friend box. That's why I think we must monitor social media. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Donada. I thought that was extremely dark at points, but very, very real for most of us in this day and age. Could I now call upon to speak against the motion our last speaker for the day? Mridini, if you're good to go, your time starts now.
I visited Perfect Town once. It was just the perfect town. All students received A++ grade. They were all so fit. They listened to their parents. And then most of all, they did not use mobile phones at all. They just used button phone just to talk to each other if there was any need. But that does not happen in real life. Even if it does, all the adults would tell, oh my God, look at these children. They're not even naughty. They're not doing anything. They're so perfect. I'm really bored. Remember our childhood days? It was so it was so naughty. All of us were like so free. But the reality is all children are being pressurized a lot, especially for their board exams, especially for their marks. You can see the newspaper after the day the board exam results are announced. So many death rates, so many suicides. And on top of that, parents criticize them for many reasons. Do not wear that dress. Not only parents, society. Do not wear that dress. Do not eat that. Don't go out with them. Children are under so much stress in the 21st century. And then comes technology. Their only means of recreation. Their only means of recreation and their only means for connecting with their friends. And even when that is monitored, don't you feel the students will lose their identity? Don't you feel that the students will lose their individuality? Okay, let's say that a student wants to talk with their friend. Then even if they want to talk something, they have the second thought because they're constantly being monitored like Big Boss 24/7. Somebody is monitoring them every moment. Every moment is being monitored. They have second thoughts and then they just drop the idea. You can see that memes are becoming increasingly popular here. Memes, especially about schools, are extremely popular. Since it's violating schools and teasing schools, schools ask them to take that down. So that post is also taken down. Another violation. That's it. The third point is, like the students who are being cyberbullied, mostly I feel they might be introvert or shy. If they are, they should know how to face a problem. Okay, now in school level, they're dependent on their teachers, on the school management. That obviously, okay, the school management will take care. We do not need to take care of this. But then when we go to the next step of life, let's say college, ragging is very common. But then they would not have the boldness to stand up. What will they do in the future if they are being continuously supported by the school management? And also, every child is good in heart. It's just that there's some economic issue at home, there's some family problem at home. They should be counseled. The life skills period should be taken in school. Cause is better than cure. Instead of monitoring students, they should educate their children not to bully others because everybody is equal. If they do something like that, it's not like the kids won't change. They will obviously change. Brick by brick, they can bring their children normally. Another point. Let's say they're going to a third party organization for their monitoring. What if the opponent schools wants to dig some dirt on the other school? What if they hack into their servers and get all the information? That is more dangerous than cyberbullying. The last point I'd like to mention is that instead of giving a third party organization for monitoring their children constantly, they can just give them a chance. Everybody is good at heart. They can give them a chance to avoid everything, avoid all this. Thank you. And these are my points put forward. Thank you. Against the motion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mridini. That was extremely well put. I think everybody did fantastically well. Congratulations, guys. That brings us to the end of our first round. I think everybody spoke fantastically well. It's never easy to ask somebody who's 13, 14, 15 or 16 to talk about being monitored on social media, whether it's your principal, your teacher, or the government. But I think you guys did a fabulous job. Without dragging this out, let's get straight to our second round, which is rebuttals. Remember, it's optional to make a rebuttal. You can pass if you don't really want to, but it does count with your points, and we do have an award for the best rebuttal made. So that's hopefully an incentive for you guys to all make a rebuttal. Remember, if you're making a rebuttal, you get 2 minutes on the clock. You can make it against one person, multiple people, or whatever it is. And when it's their turn, they will respond. If somebody wants to respond after their turn is over, they'll have to wait till everybody is done. And on the judge's insistence, we might let them respond. All right? Those are the rules. if everybody's good to go, we're going to follow the same model that we followed with the first round. So I'm going to ask Kirtana Suresh, do you have a rebuttal for us?
Yes, sir.
All right, go ahead, 2 minutes on the clock.
To all my worthy opponents, let me ask you a question. Would you rather save lives than keeping your social media private? And also let me ask you something. To those who said about privacy, you do know that it was never private when you shared something publicly that everyone could see. Also, to my friend Ms. Vania Bansal, she compared building of dams to restrictions provided on social media. But I thought building of dams were useful. It is not actually true that building of dams are making rivers sad, but making humans happy. Similarly, providing restrictions on social media are not actually bad. They are molding our students to to fight against all the bullies that are coming on their way. Done, sir.
Thank you so much, Kirtana. Could I now ask Ram Daftari? Ram, if you've got a rebuttal for us, now's your time.
Yes, sir, I do have a rebuttal. So I would like to raise several points. So the first speaker from the proposition talked about how software can be used for social media monitoring. Now we have to understand that artificial intelligence and machine learning has not yet risen to such a point where it can understand the context, where it can understand the meaning. So like if I put it on my story, I want a hobby to kill time, I'll be flagged by the government according to the first speaker's logic. Then several speakers talked about how social media can curb cyberbullying, how it can curb violence. However, this can be curbed only by psychiatric experts observing students to notice such signs. And one has to think about the cost, one has to think about lack of psychiatric experts. Like it has been seen for schools monitoring social media, there has been an intense lack of psychiatric experts. Now the third speaker talked about increase in self-harm and violence rates. But do you not understand, if the rights of freedom of speech and privacy are denied, there'll be suffocation because a person cannot speak their mind out. Then think about the mental implications of that. And also several people are talking about privacy, they fail to realize the true meaning. Talking about privacy, like people should not have nothing to hide, is like saying that people shouldn't have free speech because they have nothing to say. We do not need to justify right to privacy. We must justify intrusions. And finally, the blue whale game. Neither the schools nor the governments can legally restrict what students are doing. That responsibility falls on the parents. Hence, the parents are responsible for curbing the spread and also looking at the individuals. Thank you.
And as with most of the things, parents get blamed in this equation too. Unfortunately, it does not pay to be a parent. It really doesn't pay to be a parent, I can tell you that. All right. Could I now ask Priyadarshini S if you have a rebuttal for us?
Yes.
Go ahead, Priyadarshini.
I start my rebuttal that my friend said about democracy. Democracy needed is, freedom needed is, but over democracy and freedoms are danger to our society. Particularly for teenagers, social media gives us over freedom. This freedom gives a discipline in a danger to our modern life. Schools and governments are like a mother and father. If a mother and father monitoring me is offense, no, they are well-wishers. In a sea of social media, several sharks are there. They can hurt you in many ways. Without monitoring, our friends can be diverted to wrong ways. Without monitoring, social media gives a lot of lesson for students. Several students of JNU campus lost their careers and put their life in jeopardy. Student leaders are chasing each other, damage university properties. Many students facing criminal police action because of without monitoring by university authorities. So I conclude monitoring is definitely needed of the hour for teenagers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Priyadarshini. I'm going to remember this, that schools and governments are like your mother and your father. I'm going to remember that for a while. Vanya, do you have a rebuttal for us?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead.
So the basic meaning of privacy or something that is private to someone is that something is sensitive to that person and wants to keep it a secret or wants only the close friends know. And some of you have pointed out that having a social media account and if you're sharing a picture or if you're sharing your thoughts, it means that you're already sharing it to the public. But what if I've only added a close friends of people on my social media account? There's an option of having a private account instead of a public account. Also, Johan had added that the government looking at your chats and your posts is not a violation of privacy. I'm finding it hard to understand how, when that is something that you want to keep to yourself or close friend or group. And Kirtana had said that I'm comparing building of dams as not allowing a river to flow naturally. And I'm not saying that it's making the river sad or anything. I'm just saying that by building dams, it is not allowing you to grow naturally, and how do I say it? Not allowing you to flow naturally as okay. And Ninanda, I'm sorry if I don't know your name. You had said that sorry, I had already concluded your point before. So that's it, I guess.
Thank you so much, Vanya. I think we could have stopped at damn. That would have been a good way to end. Johan, could I ask if you have a rebuttal?
Yes, actually, multiple.
Go ahead.
So, Mr. Ram Dafsari said that cyberbullying is treated by psychiatrists and not really social media surveillance. But psychiatrists cannot reach everyone who's affected by cyberbullying, but social media surveillance can, or it can't, but it can reach almost everyone, a majority of the people, and it's certainly more than what psychiatrists can reach. And social media surveillance can help, it can alert these people, can give them advice. Also, games like the Blue Whale game or other games like that, like the Momo Challenge, the governments cannot do it. They cannot say tell a person not to do this because he can, but they can take such games off social media. Also, in response to another rebuttal made by I don't remember exactly who, but social media surveillance can be done in two ways. Either it can be done in accordance with what the user wants. It can be done but without violating privacy laws. It can be done by looking only at posts that are made in public, and it can't. So the choice is really up to us, up to the government and schools, whether they want to do it in accordance with user settings and in accordance with policies or not. Also, schools can alert students, parents of students, to the dangers of social media, and then the parents can themselves take responsibility and tell the students, no, do not do this. In conclusion, these are my rebuttals. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Johan. Could I now ask Meda? Meda, do you have a rebuttal for us?
Yeah, I do have a couple of rebuttals.
Go ahead.
My first point is I don't remember who, but one of them said that it's not the point was that it sullies the honor of the school or something like that. So, I mean, at a level, it's right, but sure, when a student is representing the school or a citizen in this country, then monitoring it might be deemed correct. But for the masses, it seems wiser to prevent the barrage of restrictions you need to, monitor the account and monitor activity to a minimal extent. And also, another rebuttal I had was that when somebody said about privacy, how is it the privacy of students was violated because they had invasive techniques or something like that. So it's not privacy because it fails to take into consideration a number of important issues like collecting personally identifiable data or recordings which are like unique to you. So yeah, those are my two rebuttals.
And that's a very contentious issue. It's managed to get Zuckerberg up to Capitol Hill several times. Okay, could I now ask Shakti? Shakti, do you have a rebuttal to make?
Yes, I do, sir.
Go ahead, Shakti.
Well, I have several points to convey. That first, software, the present softwares cannot understand human chats, or they cannot understand the way of expressing our thoughts or human thoughts. They are not still developed, or they are not in that level to understand our thoughts or our keywords which we use in our social media. And it is interesting when I speak about this privacy, then how can a government, or how can somebody sneak into my personal data, or how can they take my personal data without my permission? And it is me who decide whether I should send the message to my friend circle or the first circle whom I prefer. If I send those messages to my personal friends, there is no, you cannot sneak into my data, or uh, you cannot take access to my data, my messages or my chats. This is what I wanted to convey.
Thank you so much, Shakti. Could I now ask Ninada, would you like to make a rebuttal?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
The first thing I wanted to talk about what I think Meda said. She said that the monitoring software is it's not required to some extent at a low minimum level, but not to the whole huge mass. But what she's forgetting is we have clearly mentioned in the motion that it is only for students. It's not for the whole country. That's one of the points I wanted to say. The other thing I've noticed that many people are saying about that what are they talking about? No, that's all, sir, mainly.
All right. Thank you, Ninada. Mridini, last word.
Sir, this is not only for students; it's for the entire country, because even the motion mentions that governments and schools. So government obviously goes through government covers the entire whole nation. And the other one is they were all talking. Many students were talking about privacy. My opinion was that privacy. Most devices nowadays, like most devices, okay, I won't say all, but most of them are issued by schools. Schools give a certain tablets, certain phones to students, so that they use it for educational purposes. So they obviously can go through what they're seeing, what they're browsing, so they can see who they're chatting to, especially if it's a school. If it's a school issued device. And another thing is how can he I'm not sure about the name, but someone said, how can he hack into my device? How can he know who I'm chatting with? How can he or she know who I'm messaging to, or whatever? But then if you see, sir, if any app or any application you use that has all your data stored in its servers, so the whole government has access. So they can even contact the government, because it's a verified. If for example you take any company, they will have your photos stored in its server. Say Google, they will obviously have your photos stored in their servers as database. If the government wants, they can go through if there's any crime going on, if there's any crime or there's any drug shipping, they can go through the chats, because if it's stored in an application server, they can obviously go through the chats. Since schools is remote, I'm not sure about schools, but I'm pretty sure that governments can go through all of this. Yes, sir, that's all.
Fantastic. Is there anything that anybody would like to respond to?
So I do have something which I need to point out.
Okay, Ram, I'll give you 30 seconds.
So Johan talked about how I was talking about psychiatrists pointing cyberbullying. That is a gross straw man fallacy. I was talking about how cyberbullying would be pointed out over social media through psychiatrists. You must understand that only a trained expert, a psychiatrist, can through a person's post or a person's messages understand that he is undergoing something. And if we are talking about cyberbullying, I'm pointing out towards the cost. I'm pointing towards the lack of experts. That's what was my meaning.
Fantastic. Is there anybody else that would like to respond to anything?
Yes, sir. I had
okay, Meda.
To my deserving opponent, Ninada. So I don't think, I'm not sure whether you understood what I was saying. I was saying that when a student is representing a school or representing his country, then it makes sense to monitor it to a very minimum level, because basic decorum and basic behavior must be maintained online. But I'm talking in context of the whole country. It's not required for them to monitor everybody in the whole country, because just because of the amount of data, and it's your content. It's not meant for others to view. It's your personal opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Medha. One more person, if anybody would like to speak. One last person. Okay. Vanya?
Yeah.
Vanya? Okay.
Many of you said that cyberbullying can be prevented in the first place if the students are guided, and it can be prevented without monitoring them, as in the first place, as through cyber workshops and a counselor that guides you throughout the process. Also, many of you have said that school devices can see what you're doing. That is obviously there because they make you sign a consent form, and it's with the consent of the parents as well. So I just wanted to point that out.
All right. I know I cut somebody off, so I'm just going to... John, do you want to speak?
Yes, sir. Actually,
okay.
yeah.
20 seconds.
Okay, so somebody had mentioned about the schools and governments could hack into your devices, take your data that is stored by sites on you. But that really is on the government. The government social media surveillance can be done in two ways. Like I said, it can be done according to policies like user settings, how the user set it. If the user wants to talk to all his friends or all his close friends, the government can choose either not to monitor that or to monitor that. That said, this could have some minor impact on how governments could stop terrorism, or how it could stop cyberbullying. But it can be done without violating privacy of a person. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ninad, I'm going to give you 20 seconds, and this is the absolute last word because we're totally out of time.
Yeah, so what I wanted to point out is it's my personal opinion that parents who are above the age of 40 or 45, they don't know the internal workings about social media. They don't know the recent new abbreviations. They don't know like the common talk or small talk between students. So even they have such a reach to monitor their social media accounts. That is why we are planning to bring in a good software which can track all of this. That's also.
Thank you very much, guys. You guys have been absolutely fabulous. I think everybody deserves a huge round of applause. I know I'm applauding. I know Subhashini is applauding, and I can see everybody else who's not a debater applauding. So thank you, you guys. You guys have been absolutely fantabulous. Aditya, would you like to say a few words to our debaters about how they did?
Sure. I think everybody did really well in terms of getting their points across, I guess we covered all bases in terms of every important thing that could be covered about this topic, most important things that could be covered about this topic. Especially since there was a lighter side of what I would have loved to see, a little bit more humor overall. I think you guys are all quite serious throughout. In a good way, serious in a good way. I particularly liked a couple of cases where people were trying to build on the debate and not just stick to what's exactly there as either a black or a white, where there were some points raised about qualifying what monitoring means, that it is not an absolute thing, that it could be something that could be in the gray. Then there was also a point that was brought about, again, building on the debate further, which is whether, do we be equipped with the right kind of technology to even monitor? That was another good point for me. And overall, now this is a point that I really appreciated because of, again, my own personal view on it. I know that shouldn't come into any of the judging criterias, but I just want to point out that there was something brought up. I think some of you had mentioned about how children should be equipped to deal with, these kind of situations. And one way to do that is to empower them and to encourage them. And so that's something that stood out for me as a very good point as well. But well done, all of you. I think I used to be very nervous when I was 13, 14 about speaking in public. So you all should give yourself a pat on your back just for starting off.
Thank you so much. Subhashini, would you like to say a few words to our debaters about how they did today?
Yeah, sure. All of them really spoke with a lot of confidence. I would really agree with what Aditya said. I mean, I don't really remember being so confident, especially in front of a television, front of a camera, knowing fully well it's going to be streamed live. Anyway, a few points which I thought were interesting, and the points which were raised was one is that one made a difference between surveillance and control, and how they are completely and it's really, when you really think about it, they are two words which might merge into having a feel of the same, but it's actually different. That was an interesting point. And another point, of course, many of them did raise the point about child predators and abuse, sexual abuse and online abuse, which I thought was also interesting, because it is a problem that we need to understand and face. Like I said, in the danger of sounding a little biased, and also being a woman, I think it is important to understand that this is a very important point which was made, of being in the receiving end of someone who's a sexual predator. The other point, of course, was probably not very necessary, was terrorism being brought into this whole scheme of things. Because I think when we're talking about school children and cyberbullying is yes, but terrorism probably is stretching it a little too far. I don't think that was relevant for this kind of a discussion. Which is fine. When you're in the scheme of things, you sort of try and add as many points as possible to strengthen your argument, so that's fine. And rave parties and drug abuse was another point which was made, which is, I thought, also important and interesting. How vulnerable children are, and teenagers, we're talking about 12, 13-year-olds who are and could be vulnerable in this day and age, with these kind of issues being raised in social media. So I think that's important. And also, we are talking about democracy. Someone was talking about free speech and democracy, which is also a very important point, which we need to understand, is that how much of curbing is democratic enough. I think these were interesting points which were raised, and yeah, very well done. All of you really spoke with a lot of confidence, and really appreciate that.
I think it was fabulous. I really think it was fabulous, like you said, because I don't know if beyond. Of course, I'm a little aged for this, but say 20 years ago, I think free speech, democracy, the constitution, these are words that I wrote in my civics paper. I think it came under history at that time, but I don't think we ever had conversations about it. We were probably talking about, I don't know, Independence Day or Gandhi, and that was the extent of our debate at that point. So I think it's fantastic that we are getting all these perspectives. Thank you, Subhashini. Thank you, Aditya. So that aside, Aditya or Subhashini, who's going to be announcing our 3 award winners today?
We can take turns for the first and the second, and then we'll figure out.
Go ahead, all yours.
So I think the first one, and this is something that, of course, both of us agreed on. I think it's called The Finest Point, was by Vanya, which was about empowering children to be able to make their decisions, and about the counseling that is needed so that they are prepared and to fend for themselves in the real world. I think we felt that that was a fine point. So well done, Vanya. And I think a special mention, I think a couple of mentions there. Subhashini, would you like to talk about that, because you also had a specific thing that you wanted to highlight?
Yeah. Ram Daftari I thought was a special mention. We could say that he's talking about artificial intelligence, and was very extremely interesting, because it's a different way of looking at this in a different context of how we perceive social media use by teenagers as well as by adults. So I think that point that he made was interesting.
All right. Congratulations, Vanya. You win yourself a 1,000 rupee gift voucher from Link Pens. I hope you enjoy writing, because you've got a whole lot of stationery coming right at you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Vanya. Our second award today, Subhashini.
So we were thinking about going with even Medha's point about what she made. There were a few interesting points that she had made, and I thought that was interesting too. It was quite different. Just a minute, let me just gather my thoughts. I think it was about controlling and intimidating data, as well as data breach that she was talking about, which were interesting points. And I think we can, and she also raised a few other interesting points. Aditya, would you like to just add to that?
I think there was one about the identity theft aspect.
Yes.
As a counterpoint to, data collection.
Yes. The whole, the data collection point that she made, I thought was very, thinking in a different direction.
And particularly within that identity theft aspect, I think Medha made a point about how the online profile actually may not be what their actual profile is, which is something that I've actually also heard about a lot of Gen Z, sort of curating their online profile. Their actual views, which they share in private, might be quite different.
Yeah.
All right. So congratulations, Medha. Good for you. You also win yourself a voucher from LinkPens. All right. And for our final award for the night, Aditya, will you be doing this?
Yes.
I have to do the difficult job, which is that we actually didn't find that there was a humor, used as a tool in the whole debate. So we were unable to decide on who to give that award to. So we thought that we could leave it at that and let everybody probably, think of themselves as the winners of that award, because I think it was just neutral according to us. But maybe it becomes a reminder for everyone that next time you could get an additional bonus by using humor. So I hope that's okay, Daniel.
Yeah.
That's perfectly fine. Like I said, this is a democracy. We leave it to you guys. You're the judges. You have the final word on that.
I would like to add a point here, is that there was no aggression, which was very nice. Yeah. There was actually, it was a quite healthy conversation, good chat. But I think the humor was also missing, probably keeping in mind the teenagers, they in fact, they also spoke about the pressure they are under, the social media pressure that they were talking about, being on camera, being in social media space. I think all that robs them also of a lot of natural traits. Could be. I mean, I'm just thinking aloud. That could be the reason that they are quite straitjacketed and quite stiff upper lip in a certain way. To use a very probably a harsher word, but please, guys, don't lose your humor, because I think that's also probably the difference between a social media space and the real space, and a virtual space and a real space, where a lot of things do come into play. For example, your body language, the way you talk. Here you're talking to through a camera, which could be a little more stifling sometimes, probably, or just too straight and just too perfect. So we need not be very perfect, even if you are, because this is the future. This is the way to go. The digital space is the way to go. So I think you guys have to loosen up a bit and use humor, like Aditya said.
If I had to add, I think it was Mridini who made a little bit of an effort. I think the starting of her speech was with painting this rosy picture of a utopian world. So you could have built on that a little bit and brought the humor in some more.
Well, all right. Just in case I didn't mention this, for that special mention, Ram and Mridini, we're going to go ahead and give both of you those vouchers from LinkPens. We hope you like that stationery that's coming at you. But remember,
that's the finest point, Daniel.
Yeah.
Well done.
Thank you very much. Yeah. And on that note, as the Joker infamously said, lighten up, laugh a little, live a little. Remember, the spirit of debate is all about keeping it healthy, keeping it sane, and making sure that we're taking the conversation forward. Thank you very much, Subhashini. Thank you very much, Aditya. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much for this. We hope you never stop talking. All the best. Take care and stay safe, guys. Remember, you can vote for your favorite debater right here at www.edexlive.com/debate. Remember, every vote counts. Our voting lines are open for 48 hours, so get voting right now. This debate was brought to you by the Hindustan Institute of Technology and Sciences and MEIL. Every kid has a great story to tell. Have one? Well, we're listening. Send your best story to the New Indian Express's Bookworm Junior Summer Stories Contest, and you could just end up becoming an author over the summer. What are you waiting for? Get writing.